Hey guys, it's Cobalt here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I am doing another customizing time-lapse video. I've been posting a bit more of these recently and you guys really seem to like them, but as you can already tell, this one is going to be a little bit different than anything I've ever done before. This custom is also a commission for this person over on Instagram, so I really appreciate them reaching out to me for a commission like this. But basically, they actually placed two orders with me. One of them was for a normal LPS custom, and the second order was for the same character, but for it to be turned into an LPS custom doll combination. So this commission was just purchased under my standard repaint category, which is currently $55 US, although the commissioner did also pay the extra fee for the body that we ordered. They sent me a link to it, which I will include down below in the description if you are interested in purchasing this yourself. And this order was also made back in like January at the beginning of the year, and I finished it a couple months ago, but the reason why it took me so long was because neither of us realized that the doll body was actually a pre-order, so we had to wait a little bit extra for that because I was told by the seller that these are actually 3D printed. If you're unfamiliar with this category of dolls or customized toys, this is what is known as a BJD body, which stands for ball joint doll. But yeah, you can see here I am unboxing it. Right off the bat, definitely pretty happy with the quality. Obviously, like I said, I was not responsible for paying for this, but I can definitely tell based on the quality that it seems like it's worth the price. The body that we ordered also obviously doesn't come with a head, which makes it perfect for this project, but it does come with a removable tail that just attaches with a magnet, and it also came with a couple extra magnets and some ears as well. Alright, so this is the portion of the video where I'm going to attempt to figure out how to do this head swap. As you can see, we're at my horribly messy desk, but these are the two pieces that we're going to be using. So here's the body. I actually already started painting the tail. We'll worry about that later. But yeah, here's the body once again. So I'm going to have to attach the head up here somehow. This base piece I will not be able to remove. I'm just going to have to sort of like attach it to the LPS somehow. I sort of have an idea, but basically the whole thing is connected with this string on this hook here. So I can't really take this off or else the whole thing is going to fall apart. But here is the base that we're going to use for the LPS. So I'm just going to be taking its head. I'm going to not only remove the head from the body, but also remove the entire neck plug. And then I'm thinking of sort of like cutting around here. And then hopefully with that, we can fit it over this piece and then maybe add a little bit of clay to smooth that out from that point. But I think that it's going to fit and I think it's going to work. So wish me luck. So like I do with all of my head swaps, I got out my boiling water and put the LPS base figure in there so that I could heat it up by softening up the plastic so that I could properly remove the neck peg and the body from the head. If you want to do this yourself, once you get it heated up, it's actually a pretty easy process to completely remove or even just do a normal head swap. But I also needed to soften up the head because I am, like I already said, planning to cut off part of the bottom of the head here just so that I can properly attach it to the doll body. So going back to the topic of the doll and this LPS custom combination, I'm obviously not the first person in the world to have done this. There's actually quite a few people who have done this before, and it's sort of like a little niche within the LPS customizer community, which is kind of cool. In a way, they're definitely a little bit uncanny. Like, it's very strange to see an LPS head on such a realistically proportioned body, if that makes sense. But it's definitely something that I feel like has grown on me the more I've seen it, although it's definitely not something that I was ever planning to do until this commissioner approached me. But I'm very glad that I did it because it was a fun project and a cool learning experience. But yeah, as you can see, after I got the head cut to the way that I wanted, I kind of just positioned it onto the body, making sure that I didn't like disrupt the string mechanism inside, because the little metal hook at the top is basically what holds all the strings, and I wanted to make sure that that didn't get bent inside the head. And once I had it positioned to the way that I liked, I got out some hot glue and just ended up filling a little bit of the head with the hot glue. I'm not using this as the full way to fill the head or even to secure this, but I'm sort of just using it as extra reinforcement until I go in with actual clay and smooth it out and make it look like this head actually belongs on this body. Alright, so here's what we're working with so far. Basically, I cut off the whole bottom of the head. I also had to cut off two of the little side pieces on like the head base that this body had, and it just secured in there with some hot glue. And I'm gonna go in with some epoxy sculpt clay, clean this up, and actually like replace the bottom of the head just so that it looks normal and then there's not like a giant hole in the bottom, but it can still move and stuff, still turn, and all the limbs move fine. So after I finally get that done, then we can move on to painting. So as you can see, I did a lot of the painting off camera. The whole base coat for everything I did completely off camera because it definitely took me a very long time. Obviously, it took me a long time in general because it's a lot bigger than a standard Littlest Pet Shop, and the texture of the plastic is very, very smooth. Obviously, LPS are smooth as well, but if you really feel them, they still have like a little bit of a slight texture. This is pretty much perfectly smooth, so getting the paint to stick to it was a little bit more of a challenge than normal, and I was also using a very light color of paint, which also meant that I had to have more layers than normal, even though body was already a light color. It just took a while, and to add on to that, the body has so much articulation that I really had to pay attention attention to how I was painting it around the joint specifically. And I think it's great that the body has so much articulation. Like I said, definitely think it's worth the price. It's got articulations in the wrists, the elbows, the shoulders, the hips, the knees, the ankles. Obviously, if you attach a head onto it, it rotates as well. And there's even a joint between like the rib cage area and the rest of the body, so it can sort of bend forward, if that makes sense. I think it's a really great figure, but just painting around all of those joints and all of those bendable areas was definitely a challenge, because you got to take into account that when you bend it back, the paint will most likely chip off, and that definitely happened while I was doing that. So not my smoothest paint job, especially in those areas, but I made sure to communicate all of this to the commissioner as I was working on it. And even before I took on this order, I made it clear to them that I've never done anything like this before, and that those are things that are probably likely to happen. And they were very understanding about all of this and just wanted me to create something, which I think is pretty cool. And I really appreciate that the people who order things with me have so much trust in me when it comes to creating things like this. So personally for me, I probably wouldn't order this body again. Having it as a pre-order was definitely something that I was not initially aware of. I'm sure there was something on the website that said that, but obviously neither of us noticed that fact, and that made it take a lot longer. Luckily, since this was a two-part order, I was able to ship out their original custom a lot sooner, so it didn't really feel like they were waiting for such a long time. If you're curious about the kind of paint that I'm using on this custom, I'm just using standard Americana paint, which is the main paint that I use for pretty much all of my customs, and using it on this doll body was pretty much no different, other than the fact that, like I already mentioned, it took a lot more layers and just a lot more of me being conscious of how I was applying the paint. But aside from that, my process was pretty streamlined and pretty much exactly the same as it would be with any other LPS custom. So as you can see, like I already mentioned, I did end up doing a lot of the painting off camera, so this time lapse isn't too substantial, but I hope you still enjoyed watching me create it. But now let's get on to the reveal and talk about it a little bit more. And here is the final result of the custom. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's definitely not perfect, and there's really no way for me to stop the paint from rubbing off in some of the joint areas, but overall, especially for a first try, I think it turned out pretty good, and I'm really happy with how well it looks. I think my favorite part is definitely the tail. I decided that instead of doing the stripes straight across like I did on the original custom, I would sort of make it a little bit fluffier to fit the way that the tail is molded. And of course it comes off and it's just hooked on with a magnet. You get a full-on ass shot right there. All right, and I guess you can position the tail like this as well, but it fits on better if you do it this way. And then the head moves. It does not bobble, but it sort of spins around. You could again see how I attached that earlier in the video. I smoothed it out the best I could with the different clays that I added on, but certainly not the best. If you look at it in certain light, you can sort of see the roughness a bit there. But I'm pretty happy with how close I was able to get the head to the original custom. Again, here is the first custom that I made for the commissioner, and now you can see the second version. I also had to reinterpret the little bits here. Since the commissioner did not purchase this with sculpting, I just painted the fluffy bit on here, and I just sort of made it a circle just because I felt like that fit this base the best. But now let's talk about the articulation and how it actually works out. So it can still bend in the elbows like so you can position the hands, and the wrists turn as well. For the joints like the hand joint, the shoulder joints, and the thigh joints, I would recommend sort of pulling them and then turning them as opposed to just normally turning them, because these are the areas that will rub the most. As you can see, the paint is a little bit rough in these areas just because I had issues with that while I was working on it. But if you just pull it put it back into place. It's not terrible, and obviously I did speak with the commissioner on these things, so they are aware, and I appreciate that they're not super mad about it and still asked me to take on this commission and are happy with the results. I really appreciate, again, letting me take on this challenge. And yeah, I would just be careful with bending the joints, but as long as you're gentle with it, the paint generally will not rub off. And of course, here's my signature here on the bottom. And again, here is what the back looks like. So you can pose him so that he is sitting down, although the body did also come with this stand, which falls apart really easily, as you can tell. It's a bit hard to use, and it doesn't really stand up super well with the tail, but you can sort of just fit your little guy into place like so. Yeah, I'm not crazy about this stand at all, but I'm just obviously gonna give it to the commissioner with their order because I have no use for it, and they can kind of use it. Although personally, I would probably just pose him sitting. So again, just pull, twist, and then carefully bend the knee joints, and then you can just position him from there. I think sitting down looks a lot cuter, and you can also see the little tail there as well. And something that is cool about this commission is you could, give him a little something to hold like so. You can even lift it up a little bit, give him a little plant. I think that's super cute. So all in all, I thought this was a very fun experience, and again, I'm very grateful for the commissioner letting me take on this project. I had a lot of fun with it, and this is definitely something that I would love to try again, although personally, I don't think that I would order this same body just because of the difficulties that I did have with the painting process. If the body started off as the base color that I actually wanted, I think it would have worked a lot better because, again, painting around the joints is difficult and I don't think will necessarily hold up over time. But then again, that just could be my skill level and what I've done with this. I'm sure if I did this a second time, it would turn out much better, which is exactly why I hope to do this in the future, just in different ways. But I would be super curious to know what you guys think about this project down below in the comments. Of course, if you would like to commission me for this or just a normal LPS custom, you can also reach out to me over on Etsy, linked in the description. And of course, if you are interested in purchasing this body, I will link that down below as well, so you can go and check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching and for supporting me on projects like this, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!